One. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the finals of the Wiplump Lovers Tsunami Cup. Today we have Raculot and Arctech versus Lisu and Brutal Felix. I believe our first match will be Arctech versus Brutal Felix. So let's see if they're into their match. And they are. Give the trainers just a second.
All right.
Okay, so we see Arctech's Turbo Team and Sparks and Digiquish versus Brutal Felix's Freeze Team and Nature Quish. Oh, I forgot. Here, I can stream on Discord. I forgot I wasn't doing that. There we go.
Thanks,
Alright.
Nice.
So Brutal's looking at this Volthy as his main concern, which is pretty valid because he has nothing that's really good into it and it threatens most of his team. The only issue is it's not overly pivotal in Architect's game plan, so it is more a ban to protect your team than to stop what the other team is trying to do.
Exactly. Like 5 out of 8 attempts of Brutal Felix is really weak or just weak. So
Exactly.
he definitely wants to ban that.
And then Arctech is looking at this Grumper, which is really strong into most of his team.
The Alice, and exactly. And the birds from the electric.
So I think we saw yesterday that Arctech's Digiquish is iridescence. So it is actually weak to water, I believe. Let's see what. Let me look up what Quish iridescence is weak to.
Well, if it's iridescence, I think it's the same, isn't it? It's
so yeah. So digital Quish iridescence is weak to fire and earth, but it will take 1x from water.
Yeah.
The important thing here.
Is good against digital.
The important thing here is it will take a quarter from electric.
Okay, yeah. So if it is iridescence, then it's great for tanking those hits from Nestle here.
Okay, so Arctech leads Gazuma Volerant.
Yeah, that's a very scary opening.
The Gazuma is a little bit more of a special attack build than a support build, so it does run things like Electric Storm. So probably why Arctech went to lead with it. And then Brutal Felix led with Nesla and Kinu getting the buff on the Nesla and threatening this Volerant turn 1.
And so if Brutal Felix and Lisu know that this Koish is iridescence, then they might consider banning it, or they might ban the Guileless so that it protects their Gary and their Kinu. They do ban it.
Yeah. The thing I don't like about this is that I can see Arctech Turbo Turbo everything again, and he also has the Grandpa, and he can bring in the Koish now, but gives the double speed when it comes in with
the problem.
There's a possibility Arctech just picks the top 3 Tems remaining and doesn't pick the Momo.
The problem with just turboing is he has to get rid of this Nesla first, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's what the digital Koish is there for.
Exactly.
Brings the digital Koish in.
And the Gazuma doesn't get really. The Gazuma can, is not really threatened by the Nesla at all.
Yeah. And so Brutal Felix picks up his Nidrasil, and so now he's priced into: does he want his Gary, or does he want the potential freeze comp of the Wiplump 2K?
Yep.
So we do see the Digiquish come off the board, as well as the Grandpa, setting up the Turbo, but as well as the Iridescence Quish coming in for that Thunderstrike turn 1.
I'm not entirely certain I like picking the Nidrasil here, actually, because you're not really threatening anything new, and you're weak to so many of the Tems on Arctech's side.
While Nidrasil is weak to all the winds, I can see Nidrasil coming in turn 1 and then having Toxic Ink on the Koish turn 2. Coming into the Kinu slot turn 1.
Yeah, I mean, a Toxic Ink turn 1 onto a Koish does neutral damage, so
But it will
I
also
guess
give
that's
poison ticks.
fine. Yeah, so that's your best move to hit it currently, I suppose. So I guess that's fair enough. Because he doesn't have anything that will hit it super effectively.
So we do see the freeze team come in instead of the Gary, the Gario. And it looks like Arctech is settling on this Momo.
Yeah, I do like bringing the freeze teams in just because they're good at tanking all of these wind attacks that the Volerant and the Grandpa are doing, but they're not really going to be able to do their job because so many Tems on Arctech's side are going to be too fast to freeze.
Well, the other issue is getting rid of that Gazuma.
Yeah, and if they ever are in at the same time as the Gazuma, it'll just wreck them.
Also, the Gazuma knows Sparks, I believe. That can
Yeah,
the
it knows
special
Sparks,
attack.
Turbo, Electric Storm, and probably
that
Thunderstorm.
hits
No,
pretty hard.
it also it uses Tesla Prism to lower the speed. So
Oh yeah, that as well.
I think we can. I'm going to assume that the Kinu leaves this turn, and probably the Volerant. I think leaving the Volerant in is the worst move this on turn 1.
Yeah.
Let's look at what's in the backfield. So I think Kinu leaves. Maybe one of the birds or the Nitrosil come in. I think Nitrosil, since it's not weak to electric, but we will see. And then the Koish onto the Volerant spot makes the most sense to me.
Yeah, I don't think you want to swap in Tukai or Wiplump here unless you are absolutely confident that Gazuma is going to swap out for some reason. Because it would just end terribly for you. So Nidrasil for the Kinu makes sense. And then Volrund becoming a Koish makes sense. But it could potentially just be the Tuvine and then give the Tuvine a turbo from the Gazuma to make it so that the Gazuma's fast and now your slowest Tem is now fast enough to wreak some havoc and
Right.
hit the Nesla with CPGs.
So the Volerant does leave, becomes the Koish, as we were expecting.
Okay.
Alright.
It gets a speed buff from the
Gets a
Gazuma.
double speed.
Kinu leaves for the Nidrasil. Gazuma, double swap from Arctic's side. Gazuma becoming Tuvine, just double pressuring on to that Nesla slot.
So yeah, just decides that both of those Tems that he might have wanted to bring in.
Ooh, interesting. And assuming the swap, we see the Nesla with the Thunderstrike onto the Tuvine, doing 47%. That's decent damage.
Yeah, that's pretty good. And with that, we can assume that Brutal Felix and Lisu do know that this Koish is Iridescence, and we're anticipating the swap. Otherwise, there's no reason not to hit the Volerant slot if you think the Koish is Synergy Master.
He could also just be wanting to do the damage to the Gazuma, because the Gazuma will take 1 action from the Thunderstrike as to allow this freeze team to get online.
That is true.
So I think now on turn 2, I think this Nesla has to leave the field.
Yeah, it definitely would die here if it stays because it can take 2x damage.
So probably see maybe Tukai come in as it can tank the damage the best. And I think this Nidrasil goes ahead and attacks. Just depends on which one Brutal Felix wants to try to get rid of first.
Yeah, he can go for that Toxic Ink on the Koish to start chunking it down because it'll eventually need to come down. Or he can go for trying to finish off this Tuvine. Whereas actually Arctech might just go for the Hypno on the Nidrasil and the CPG on the Nesla to get that guaranteed
Right,
sleep.
but we don't know what the Nidrasil is running. It could be running E-Drink. Interesting enough, the Nidrasil doesn't stay. We see Tukai coming into that spot. A double swap for the freeze team. Interesting. Now that Gazuma is off the board. Let's see how much damage this Wiplump takes. So it takes right at 39% from that Gazuma.
That hits a lot.
That did a lot of damage, but now we have to remember that this Koish is fast.
Yeah, this is not good for Brutal Felix because the Wiplump won't survive a hit from Koish to get the Tsunamis off. So basically, this Wiplump has to either swap out to try to preserve the freeze for later, or just stay in, take the sacrifice, and get an attack off with Tukai.
Now, does
That doesn't
Wiplump
seem worth it.
have 3 proud moves? It has a tornado, right?
Yeah, it has Tornado. So it's
So,
potentially faster than the Koish with the Tornado.
right. So we could see double tornadoes onto the Koish spot, or this Wiplump swapping out again.
Meanwhile, from Arctech, he's probably just going to go for that digital stream on the Wiplump slot, and then this Tuvine could become Kazuma again.
Right, or he just could double in. I think Arctic's at a nice spot at this point where he can either double in for the damage or swap in the Gazuma just to pressure out the Tukai.
Yeah, there's no real reason not to just go for another CPG from the Tuvine. But if he wants to try to set up a turbo again, then this would be a perfect turn to bring the Gazuma back.
Now, does Gazuma give an extra speed 2 buff to the Koish if it comes in again? Or is that...
I believe it's only the first time.
Okay, let's look.
Because I think he brought it a second time against me, and it didn't proc again, so...
I think
does
so
swap
too.
the Tuvine out. Brings the Gazuma in.
We do see the Gazuma come in, pressuring with that 4x damage. Digital stream comes out, does 33.6%, so he can 3-shot the Nidrasil with the Koish. We see the Spreader 2Kai come with the Tornado, doing decent damage, about 31% to the Koish. But now this 2Kai's in danger from the Thunderstrike. I think from Arctech's side, he probably just wants to go ahead and double in on the 2Kai slot. Or use the Electric Storm. So a digital attack and an electrical attack on the 2Kai slot. Nothing here will want to eat that, as the Nesla is weak to that digital, I believe. But
or he could feed some swaps from the other side, bring in the Grandpa, and go for the turbo play.
I mean, there's no reason right now to go for the turbo play, though, right? I mean, just keep up the pressure.
I mean, because it sets up your game plan of getting those HKSs. And then now your Zuma is fast enough to outspeed anything, so you know for sure that you're going first. Because you weren't threatened with much damage here.
Right, but I mean, a double in would have killed anything in Brutal Felix's Nesla spot. So there's no reason not to double in.
I mean, I don't think it would have killed the Nesla, because the digital stream comes in and hits it, and then the electric attack heals it.
Right, okay. That makes sense.
Now,
because this Nesla's electric synthesis, it will actually gain health from being attacked by electric.
Yeah, all damage taken will instead be healed.
So I think
now
the Grandpa leaves again, becomes Digi-Koish again to eat the Thunderstrike.
In which case, Brutal Felix might just Thunderstrike the Kazuma slot again, reading the Electric Koish swap in, which if it does, will be very good to just wreck this Volorend.
So Nidrasil leaves, becomes Kinu, putting another buff onto this Nesla.
Yeah, basically this Nesla is the most important TEM. Does just go for the Hypnosis on the Nesla. Nice.
So the Turbo does allow for this fast Hypnosis.
Mm-hmm. And it's the Sweatband Grandpa even. Alright. And so now this Kinu slot is almost certainly going to eat an HKS and then something from the Volorend.
But I don't think it's in danger of being one-shot at this turn.
No, so he can just leave it in and take it.
And Bully, no one's lost any TMs yet, so Bully hasn't procced. So Grandpa does not have its damage boost yet.
Actually, this Volorend could become the digital Koish, so that way you have an option to threaten the Nesla, because otherwise you hit this Kinu slot with a double in, and then both your TEMs are weak to this Nesla again, and you didn't do anything to prevent it. So I think an HKS and a swap to the digital Koish here is good, which is why it's unfortunate that Volorend came in the first place, when it could have just been the digital Koish. And then Brutal Felix potentially the best play here would be to just hope the Kinu survives and Hypnosis the Volrin slot, if you're anticipating that. And even if the Volrin stays in, getting that to sleep will also be helpful for you.
I really wish Felix had went ahead and brought in Gary to this game to have
Yeah,
some chances for
I
those
didn't like
synergy
the double.
Earthbreakers.
Yeah. I did not like the double freeze coming in.
So if
It
anyone
was just
in our audience
insane.
doesn't know, Gario has Earthbreaker, which is an Earth move, but
It just
with
goes
it
for the turbo.
synergizes with Electric, and it actually becomes Electric damage. So the double turbo, we do see the Noxious Bomb come down the Kinu, do decent damage, about 63, 64%. So this Kinu is in danger of dying this turn, especially from these two Tims. We probably see double HKS coming down is a real possibility.
I don't think there's any chance Volrin goes for an HKS this turn because Noxious Bomb is super effective against both these slots, and the HKS will just make it weaker to a Thunderstrike. So I think Arctech wants to try to pressure this Nesla, but since it's got +2 special defense and +2 defense, I don't think even a +4 speed HKS with a Noxious Bomb will kill this Nesla. So he's actually in a real pickle here.
Well, the question is, does Arctech swap out here, assuming that the Electrical Storm is incoming? There could also just be a Thunderstrike on one of these slots.
Yeah, if he goes for a Thunderstrike, then that could potentially just straight up kill this Grandpa. But then that makes that the best spot to bring in a Digital Coish to tank it. So then if you Thunderstrike the Volrend, it kills the Kinu, and you don't kill it. So that's probably the best play.
From Brutal
Felix's
side, he has to assume both Noxious Bomb or Wind damage. If he reads Noxious Bomb, he brings in the Nidrasil. So we do see the Grandpa swapping out, becoming the Koish, hoping for that Thunderstrike. Interesting. Brutal Felix swaps out the Nesla there, brings in the
Apparently
Tukai.
they were afraid of the double in. I don't think they needed to be.
Hypnosis comes down onto the Volorant here, but Kinu does die.
Trades his life for Hypnosis onto the Volrend. So now, even if you bring Nesla back here, you're not threatening them because you don't want to wake up. I mean, I guess you still Thunderstrike the Volrend slot. No, brings the...
Right, whatever the Nesla would do there would go after the Volorend.
Yeah, if the Nesla came in, Thunderstrike the Volrend would be pretty good. And then you get that. But the Nidrasil comes in, really wants to try to pressure this Toxic Koi, or this Digital Koish. So hopefully this turn...
Well, anything coming into that slot will get Toxic ticks. The important thing to note, though, is with the Kinu dying, this Grandpa does get the Bully proc, and at +4 speed, HKS is looking very scary.
Yeah, it'll murder this Wiplump, murder the Nidrasil, but both of the Nestle and the Tukai can probably tank one HKS, even with +4 Bully proc, but they're not going to like it. Does go for the Hypnosis from the Digital Koish onto the Tukai. Toxic the Digital Koish. Alright, so the Koish still needs to take one more hit before it will die to that Toxic tick. And now this Volrend is online. HKS could very easily kill this Nidrasil here. And you don't really want to swap in anything to that spot because this Koish should just digital stream that slot as well, and then whatever comes in there took a bunch of damage and did nothing in return. So you almost have to sacrifice the Nidrasil here just because you need... I mean, I guess you sacrifice the Wiplump.
Yeah, I'm not sure if... Do we know for sure that the HKS kills here?
HKS plus digital stream definitely kills. HKS probably kills.
So HKS comes down onto the Wiplump slot, sacrificing the Wiplump, but eating the HKS.
And so now, did the Tukai prep a tornado? Because now it gets woken up with the digital stream. Sharp Rain, okay. Does kill the Koish, so the Koish is dead, so Brutal Felix is almost certainly going to bring his Nesla back now that that's finally gone. And so Arctech should probably see this coming and bring his Tuvine in as his best threat against it. So then he can CPG Toxic Plume. Nope, goes for the Grandpa. Okay.
So I do think we see a Thunderstrike or an Electrical Storm from the Nesla. The question is, does this Voldrin Toxic Plume? It can also just Noxious Bomb this Nesla. And for Brutal Felix's side, he may swap out the Tukai for the Nidrasil, expecting like the Toxic Ink, or I meant the Toxic Plume. It'll be interesting to see what this Grandpa does. Probably just HKS down onto the Tukai spot in case there is a swap. He could also swap it out for the Tuvine, but I think bringing Tuvine in.
Just came in for the Hypnosis on the Nesla, and then a Noxious Bomb on the Tukai.
Overexerting, it looks like. Let's see if it was perfect.
Nope.
So it is an overexert.
1 or 2 stamina. Brings the Nidrasil in. Alright, so now Grandpa just HKS's this Nidrasil, and that should definitely be a kill. And this game looks like it's pretty over. Without a single attack coming from this Nesla the whole game. That is tragic.
There was a Thunderstrike onto the Tuvine that did 47%.
It was? Okay, yeah. So the one Thunderstrike. Yeah, getting that turbo proc onto that Grandpa so it has the guaranteed super fast hypnosis. Definitely let Arctech control this game. Plus a couple of, I feel like a little bit too cautious of swapping out with the Nesla on the turn that it had alert status, so it could actually get the attack off. And so here there's no reason not to just double the Nesla with a Noxious Bomb and, I don't know, probably Tornado from the Grandpa. Both probably die to the Electric Storm that comes in, but then Gazuma and Tuvine can finish it off. It just goes for the Windburst. Might not have Tornado.
Noxious Bomb looks like it overexerts again. It does decent damage, about 30%. No, I don't think that overexerted. It looks like it was perfect.
Kills the Voldrin. The Grandpa lives with 0.4%. 1 HP. Oof, that's unfortunate. Yeah, Tuvine comes in. And now this Grandpa is probably going to swap to become a Gazuma to eat the Thunderstrike. And then the Tuvine just CPGs the Nesla. Or maybe, actually no, Grandpa probably just HKS's and Tuvine TPGs.
I mean, Brutal Felix's only chance is to kill the Tuvine here.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's going to take 2 hits.
Yeah, so if there is a Hypno from the Grandpa, it depends on, does this Nesla outspeed the Tuvine or not?
That is true. Could just go for the Hypno, but then, yeah, you're risking a little bit too much on if you're faster or not with the Tuvine.
So that HKS still does decent damage, about 20%. And CPG finishes it off.
Kills. Alright. Yep. GG.
GG. Arctech and Recula take the lead on the series 1-0. Welcome everyone to the finals of the Wiplump Lovers Tsunami Cup. We have Recula and Arctech versus Lisu and Brutal Felix. Recula and Arctech lead the series 1-0. Our next match is Recula versus Brutal Felix.
And they're in game.
All right. Let me pull the game up.
The current standings is 1-0 in the lead of Raculot and Arctec.
All right, so we see Raculot's standard double Kets team, pretty aggressive, pretty fast team, and then we just saw Brutal Felix in the first match with this Electric and Water Freeze team. He's also running that Nature Quest, which can do a lot of damage. We do see Wolfie as the first ban, which makes sense given the amount of waters that Brutal Felix runs.
Yeah, and this matchup looks a lot better for Brutal Felix because his natural inclination of all of these water Thames helps him out a ton against this Fire Quest and this Rykon, to the point where Rakulot is probably going to not end up picking that Rykon this game.
Probably, yep.
So I think Raculot probably wants to lead something like Nidrasil just against the waters, which may mean that one of his first bans could be one of the wind types that pressures it out. Instead, we see the Grumper ban, which means that Raculot is still leaning on the Kets.
Well, I mean, also, the Grumper is a good foil to his Valash, which is probably what he's looking at to carry this game for him now.
That is true.
Which means Brutal really should look to bring his Gary in here, because it's just strong to so many of these. Or he could just... Actually, I don't hate just bringing Kinu in.
So we do see Nidrasil, an interesting pick. Raculot doesn't have anything that will 2x against it, except the fires, of course. Maybe try and bait in those fires to be the first picks. It'll be interesting. Because if he baits in the fires, then he can obviously ban the Nidrasil. But we do see...
Ooh, an interesting mirroring match there.
We do see the Nidrasil picked, as it's the best team into this water-heavy team. I think Raculot probably either goes one of the one of the neutrals as damage, or Valash Gaialis. Just we do see Valash.
Yeah, I like the Valash here. I almost like from Rakulot's side here going for the Fire Koish Valash open, just because you're eventually going to pick Fire Koish, and then that threatens that Nidrasil turn 1, and so you can swap your Fire Koish in for your Scunch or your Gaialis turn 2 or turn 1. It does go for that Tukai to threaten the Nidrasil, which means that this Valash might feel safe enough to go for a turn 1 Madness buff.
It will probably eat a Toxic Ink though.
Yeah, and because this is Spreader Tukai, it's going to eat the Wind Burst no matter what.
So Nature Koish is Nature Koish is the second ban. Nature Koish does a ton of damage with that Synergy Master, Water Cutting Lily. Yeah, I do like the Gary coming in there. I mean, you can't attack it for turn 1. The only problem is Gary doesn't have a ton of strong turn 1 moves, but that would pressure out that Valash.
So yeah, I like the Gaialis ban because it pressures your Gary, which is going to be really good here. And most likely Brutal picks up his Gary and his Kinu for his last picks, because this Nestle is not really doing a ton other than threatening the Fire Koish if it comes in. Which, you've got plenty of other things that can do decently into the Fire Koish, so you don't really need it.
So we do see Scunch coming in, which is a nice Gary counter with the fighting moves.
Yeah. And then most likely move flank. There's no reason to pick the Fire Koish here, but I guess there's no reason not to. Your Thames are pretty much locked in from Rakulot's side. Like I said at the beginning, you don't really want the Lion. And Brutal Felix is contemplating the Kinu.
So the Kinu is a nice pick here because it pressures out the Scunch and the move flank. Most Kinus are specs so they can one-shot the Scunch slot. And that's important, especially if Brutal Felix gets Gary onto the field.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, most Kinus are spec to one-shot Scunch, and so therefore most Scunches are no longer spec to survive a non-Kinu that's been spec to one-shot it. They've given up on that dream. So it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, really.
So I think Gary was the best pick there. And we see Firequash rounding it out. So turn one, I don't think Brutal Felix needs to swap anything. I think he can go ahead and just double in on the Vlash spot. So if he doubles in on the Vlash spot and Reculot thinks that's going to happen, what does Reculot do?
So from Rakulot's side, you kind of want this Vlash to live. And if it takes this damage, it's not terrible. It's only terrible if you Madness buff. But if you Toxic Ink Crystal Spikes this Tukai, then that is also going to do a lot of damage.
I think the other option is maybe swapping in something like a Mooflank. That will tank the damage, but also get like Cage online, so you can Cage and just kill the Tukai before there are any freeze shenanigans.
Mm-hmm. That would also be pretty strong.
So let's see if there's any swaps.
Brings in the Gary, anticipating some damage coming into that Tukai slot. Did we go for the Greedy Madness buff? Let's find out.
Toxic
He
Ink
does indeed go for the Greedy Madness buff. And
onto
it's going to
the
pay off for him
Vlash.
here.
So those 2 poison ticks will take him down to about 28%, 27%.
Yeah, and so now he does have to get out of here because these 2 Tems can't threaten this Gary. Like, Nidrasil can allergic spread, but that's not going to deal much, even with that 4x damage.
Right, so this Vlash leaves may come in something like a Firequash here. But if Brutal Felix goes ahead and does Clay Ball, Toxic Ink onto the slot, it's going to do decent damage to anything. So maybe we do finally see Mooflank come out.
Yeah, I think Mooflank's the most likely swap in here. Nope, just goes for the C spikes onto the Nidrasil.
Interesting.
Oh, the Hypnosis on the Gary. Okay, that makes sense. You said Nidrasil doesn't have Hypnosis. You lied to me. But it's not enough to pay off.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, the Narco hit finishes off this Vlash. Very nice.
That was almost a really good play from Rocklot there, but unfortunately, the Narco hit from Nidrasil is enough to finish off that Vlash, and now this is looking good from Brutal Felix's side. Because you took out the one thing that you were most scared of in this matchup. Now if you just can kill this Scunch, then you're well on your way.
And Brutal Felix still has the double freeze in the backfield to handle this Nidrasil with Tornadoes and Windburst.
Exactly.
So Scunch does come in.
As soon as they come out, they'll have a freeze up, so they only need to kill the Scunch. I guess they technically need to kill Firequash because of the synergy.
Yeah, so this is a tough turn for Brutal Felix just because this Scunch is going to be super fast. It will have P-Jab up, so we may see P-Jab onto the Gary. Or just P-Jab to finish off the Nidrasil, I think would be fine too. So I think maybe we see a Kinu swap in from Brutal Felix. It just depends on which slot he wants to bring that Kinu in. And can Reculot read that?
I think this turn I like swapping in Kinu and Wiplump. Kinu onto the Gary slot, so that way it buffs the Wiplump up. I'm assuming Nidrasil is faster than Gary.
Right.
And then you have your Kinu out here to pressure the Scunch, and you have your Wiplump out to hit the Nidrasil with a Tornado. And you probably eat the P-Jab and a Toxic Ink on the Wiplump slot, but maybe the Toxic Ink comes on the Kinu.
Yeah, I think the Toxic Ink is probably coming onto the Gary slot. Try and get those poison ticks in.
Rakulot's really thinking about his turn here. Probably just trying to guess where swaps are going to come in. Because there's also a chance that he just doubles the Gary slot and that becomes something else, and then this Nigersil just stays in and slams
The
the
Scunch.
Scunch slot with the Toxic Ink, I guess. Because Narcoleptic Hit is a one-hold move, right?
Right, so Narco Hit is not online at the moment.
Can't believe you lied to me about Hypnosis on Nigersil.
I believe I assumed it was so slow that it wouldn't matter, but in this case, it actually did matter.
Yep, it happens to be faster than the Gary. I guess it's possible my audio cut out when you said that, and I just assumed you said it didn't have Hypno from earlier.
So we do see Kinu
Alright,
coming in.
And that means that this Nigersil is not swapping out, so it kind of gets a wasted Kinu buff.
Yeah,
Because it just instantly dies. Perfect jab.
and does Kinu eat a Toxic Ink? It does. It doesn't like eating that. So that Kinu is now dead.
And now Scunch can kill it with a Haitu Ochi before it goes.
So that was.
So he doesn't even need to worry about
Yeah, that was a tough turn for Brutal Felix. Be interesting what he brings in here, because anything he brings in will eat some damage. I think. Okay, so 2Kai comes in. I think we do see the Scunch attack the Kinu. Just finish it off before the Beta Burst will kill the Scunch. And then Nigersil Toxic Inks onto this 2Kai slot. But, ooh, Scunch retreats.
Runs away.
So that means that this Toxic Ink is going on to the Kinu. But sacrifice. Ooh, interesting.
I guess he figured that was his only chance of outrunning the Scunch, so just goes for it. Does go for that Wind Burst. And then still eats about a quarter HP from a Toxic Ink, even after a sacrifice.
Alright, so Wiplump has to be coming out here.
The only unfortunate thing here is that the Wiplump comes out, has not had a turn in yet, so it will only have Cold Breeze up, although I think Brutal Felix is also running Ice Shuriken on it for some reason.
Well, I think, so we see Tsunami come out, get freeze sticks on everything, and then Ice Shuriken or Cold Breeze onto this Nigersil.
Yep, that should definitely be the play, because the worst this Koish can do is
a Water Cannon.
Cat's one of these slots.
Hypnosis.
Well, Ket should do damage. I guess also Hypnosis is potentially concerning. It'll come down after your attacks, but then you're asleep for that next turn. So if it Hypnosises the Wiplump, then you won't get that second Tsunami.
Or a Rainbow Guard, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rainbow Guard to try to keep itself out of it. But I think Reculot is running Water Cannon and Ice Cubes, so he doesn't have one of those two. Nigersil does run away, become a move flank, so that probably means we're just going for the Kets here, just to try to get as much damage as possible.
Ice Shuriken onto the move flank slot. And Tsunami, so this will freeze the move flank.
Ooh, does good damage to the Fire Koish too. Yep, Hypnosis, hopefully on the Wiplump. Yes. If that was on the 2Kai, that would have been very tragic. Alright, stops that second Tsunami. Now this 2Kai, I think, yeah, it has Sharp Rain, so I think that kills this Koish, potentially, here.
Yeah, so I think Sharp Rain down onto the Koish spot.
Well, it hits both slots.
Right, but Nigersil may be coming back in to the Koish spot, or back into the move flank spot.
Yeah, from Brutal Felix's side here, I like just waiting with the Wiplump, because you potentially can just win this game off of Tsunamis now. Does go for the Tornado, though.
And no swaps on Reculot's side.
Kets is the 2Kai.
And it does nothing.
Much. However, unfortunately, that tornado there cost a whole bunch of stamina, so now this Tukai OXs with a Tsunami. And you need the Tsunami because this move flank will kill the Tukai, almost assuredly.
So this move flank is almost dead, though. So
yeah, depending how much damage this Wiplump has, it could kill it first.
So maybe a Brutal Felix just goes Tornado from the Wiplump to kill the move flank, and rest the Tukai. Do the double Tsunami in the next turn.
Yep. The only way that gets super punished is if a Scunch comes in on that slot, and then it's fast enough to Haito Uchi before the Tukai gets a chance to attack.
So I think Raculot's win condition is still at Scunch just because of the speed.
So he doesn't really want it to take free damage.
Right. So I don't think it comes in this turn. I think it comes in on a death.
Most likely, yeah. It comes in if this Koish dies here. And he is thinking about it. Alright, no swaps. Wiplump Tsunami comes out. This Koish is either dead or frozen. And it just kills both of them. So that is a pretty high damage Wiplump. Nice.
Let's see this Tukai rests.
Hopefully. Nope, wind bursts. Oh no. Doesn't OX on it, so it can still it can still hit them with the Tsunami this turn. But once you do that, you've basically killed yourself.
Alright, so Nidrasil and Scunch.
I guess you don't need to.
Yeah, come out. I mean, the Tukai still needs to Tsunami if he wants to freeze, right?
Yeah, but I don't think you need to really worry about the freeze. I think you just go for a wind burst or even a tornado here just to deal your damage. Because I think you can just die to this Scunch or get put to sleep if you don't go for a 3-prio move, depending on the speeds. Because Tukai is inherently pretty slow.
So do we see double tornadoes here?
I think Wiplump should tornado here. And I think it has to be on the Scunch slot. And the Tukai probably should tornado. I don't know how fast Scunch is normally. Yeah, Scunch should definitely be able to outspeed the Tukai with the 3-prio move, so I think you have to just tornado from the Tukai here. And hope you don't kill yourself with the OX, although I think you do.
So let's see what Brutal Felix does.
Actually, Tukai does have +2 defense, so maybe you don't die from the Haito Uchi. So that's something at least.
So Wiplump does use Tornado, but comes down onto the Nidrasil spot. Savage Suplex onto the Wiplump.
That was a lot of damage. Possibly anticipating a swap from the Tukai. And then Windburst comes in, finishes off the Nidrasil. Nice.
But that does OX the Tukai. So the problem here is the Scunch is super scary because it can basically one-shot anything else that's left.
So now there's no reason not to attack the Wiplump slot with a fighting move, I think.
Right. I don't think we see Oshigashi here. Probably wants to save that for the Gary. But maybe the Haito onto the Brutal Wiplump slot. And this Wiplump wants to use whatever, hoping that it can outrun it at 2-prio.
Yeah,
but I have
basically got nothing, so it probably just goes for a Tsunami here, because Tornadoes its only 3-prio move, and everything else it has doesn't deal damage. Nope, does swap it out for the Gary.
We'll see if that was the right move. I think he just wanted to try to do as much damage as possible. But that does mean that neither of the TMs die this turn, so at least one of them will get damage off onto the Scunch.
And now that Haito Uchi is down, the Tukai is much more likely to be able to get a 2-prio off fast enough. Right? That's Scunch's only a 3-prio move?
Scunch has Ninja Jutsu, but depends if Raculot is running it.
Right.
But besides Ninja, Scunch only has 2-prio moves.
Oh, okay. So this Tukai is actually really unfortunate now that it's spreader, because even if there's only one Tem, you still do the reduced damage from spreader for hitting both slots.
Interesting.
So Tornado will do your most damage, but will OX again. With this much stamina, you might survive it, so it's probably worth it.
Tornado does come off the scunch. Doing right at 30%. Tukai survives.
Kill. Just goes for the kill on the Gary. Makes sense. And now you're in the same position you were in coming out of the...
right, but now there is one difference, though. This scunch is now almost OX'd.
Yes.
So it could kill a Tukai, probably with a P-Jab without OXing. But if it uses a stronger attack against Wiplump, it will OX to make that attack. I don't think Tukai can one-hit it, though. I don't think Tukai can one-hit the scunch. But if Tukai can do something like Wind Burst and then Tornado on the next turn, maybe it's enough.
OX is for the Haito Uchi. How much damage does this OX do? Decent. Okay, yeah, go for the Wind Burst here.
Or do you just go Tornado? I don't think Tornado's enough.
Tornado kills you and might not kill it.
So just Wind Burst and then Tornado, hoping that... Ooh, Sharp Ring. It doesn't OX.
It does not OX.
And that's GG. So close, guys. Such a close game. GG, Raculot. GG, Brutal Felix. And that brings the series 1-1.
Quite possibly the closest game that's been in this tournament.
That's true. Close, close, close.
The only one I can think of off the top of my head that was in the same ballpark was mine against Unpheasant.
So hello everyone, and welcome to the Wiplump Lovers finals of the Tsunami Cup. We have Recula and Arctech versus Lee Su and Brutal Felix. The series is tied 1-1. And now we have Lee Su versus Arctech. And they're into the match.
Yeah, so now this is the first time we've seen Lee Su's team this finals. He's got a little bit of Kets and got some synergy water cannon shenanigans going on, and just overall looking to be a little bit aggressive.
Well, that little bit of Kets is already out of...
Yeah, so we see the first bands come in pretty fast. Grandpa, the Sweatband Grandpa band from Lee Su, and that Capfire band from Arctech.
So yeah, the Grandpa band makes sense because it's definitely one of the scary Tems on Arctech's side because it benefits from the turbo and has turbo itself. So
it has a hypnosis.
And has those pesky hypnosis.
From Arctech's side, his Digi-Koish is iridescence, which means it does not like those fires.
Yeah. And yeah, from here, Arctech just sees no reason not to bring his Gazuma Digi-Koish. Which... hopefully... Actually, did we ever see that the Digi-Koish was iridescence in the last match? It never took a hit that was supposed to be super effective, did it?
No, but I do believe it is iridescence. But either way...
just maybe they don't know it yet.
Lee Su says... Yeah. So Lee Su says, okay, I'm just going to go ahead, get the Synergy Water Can. I'm just going to do 1x to the Koish, get some Poison Ticks on it.
Yep.
So we see Momo Band from Arctech, just taking away that damage dealer. I kind of like Lee Su banning Volfi here. That means there's nothing to really pressure out.
I mean, you almost don't have to ban the Volfi because Ukama Aquatic Whirlwind plus the Volar and HKS is more than enough to kill it.
And the Volfi's attack isn't strong into the rest of these Toxics. So maybe Volfi may not even be picked. So Lee Su goes ahead and bans the Volerand, getting rid of that second turbo. And Arctech bans Momo, as we talked about. Arctech goes ahead and brings in Tufine and Gaialis, pressuring out probably the Ouroboros and Kinu picks for Lisu. So I think that's why Lisu is considering Gaialis here instead.
Yeah, the Gaialis here into this Tuvine and opposing Gaialis is pretty strong, plus it hurts that Wolfie pick. And then for the final pick, I mean, Ouroboros is nice, but it's just weak into all of these Tems picked so far from Arctech that you have to think that the Kinu is the correct choice.
Right. The only reason he may be thinking is usually a Ouroboros respect to slightly outrun Tuvines and be able to basically almost one-shot with the Inner Spirit. But we do see the Kinu pin, and I do think the Kinu is a better pick into that team.
Yeah, because at the very least, you don't take 2x damage from Gazuma electric hits.
Right.
It's not much, but it's something.
So fast charge procs, making this Digiquest very fast. It'll be interesting to see if there's any swaps on turn one. I don't think either team really has to swap at this moment. I think Lisu will probably swap on turn 2 to avoid some of the electric damage. Instead, we do see the Volerand leave, become the Hydra, which...
Become that Nidrisil to keep that synergy water cannon going.
It's onto the Gazuma, fearing the electrical hits. Tesla Prison does come down to Ukama, which means that this Ukama will be going fairly slow next turn. But since the water cannon outran this Gazuma, and Lisu now has a speed arrow, even with the speed down, I think the Aquatic Whirlwind hits first. I wasn't paying close enough attention. Will the Digiquest one-shot the Ukama here?
The Digiquest should not kill here, but also, even with Aquatic Whirlwind, because of how the speed works, I think it's possible Kazuma can still outrun this Ukama, even with Aquatic Whirlwind.
I think some of it depends on just how fast they are in comparison to each other.
Yep. And so, this Nindrasil is probably looking just to hit that Toxic Ink. The question is, does he want to try to pressure this Koish? Because it is pretty good into his Gaialis and Kinu, but this Kazuma's much bigger of a threat, so he probably tries to Toxic the Kazuma to make sure it dies to that
Poison tick. So the Kazuma leaves.
And reading that, Kazuma pieces the F out.
Becomes Momo.
Digital Stream hits.
Does finish off the Ukama. You lied to me.
I said maybe.
Allergic Spread comes out, getting 3
so
poison ticks on both of these teams.
The swap out.
So now Momo has Undermine online, so that's going to be doing a ton of damage. So I think Lisu may bring in either Kinu or Volerand here.
I think you need to bring the Kinu in, because otherwise the Nidrisil could easily just get one-shot by this Undermine, and maybe double tapped by the Koish if it doesn't finish it off. But if you bring the Kinu in, it doesn't die to the Undermine, and now you know that Nidrisil shouldn't die to the Undermine.
Right.
And then you have the Beta Burst to pressure this Momo. The question is, do you die to Undermine Digital Stream, which probably you do.
Well, Digital Stream is 2x effective against Mentals, and Kinu doesn't have a high defense. So I think it would be pretty dangerous to leave this Kinu in to eat a Digital Stream. So we may see something like Volerand come in just to eat the attack. It depends on where this Undermine lands, though, if that would be the right move or not.
It basically depends how important you think Kinu is to your team versus how important this Gallus or this Volrend is, because whatever eats that hit, if it's a double in,
Is
most
dying.
likely dies.
Yeah. So Kinu does swap.
Kinu does swap for this Volrend.
Digital Stream does 37%. Undermine comes down, finishing off the Volrend.
Alright. And so that was a very threatening turn from Architect's side, but now this turn is much less concerning because now Digital Koish has no stamina and Momo no longer has Undermine.
And we saw a Narco hit come down on that Momo, actually bringing it down into territory where the Poison Ticks can finish it off. So this Momo will not get another Undermine off next turn. It dies before it can.
Yeah, I do like bringing the Kinu back here because the only issue about this Momo now is it can get a Bark or a Willpower Drain off for sure, but if you leave it alone and Architect gambles on it, he could go for a Double Edge, and if he Double Edges the Kinu slot, as well as OXs with the Koish Digital Stream, that'll definitely kill this Kinu, or the Gaialis if he swaps for it.
Right. So I think Lisu may just go ahead and double in on the Koish slot this turn. Or try to swap in Gaialis, maybe on the Nidrasil spot. But from Arctech, we see the Koish retreat, wanting to save it for later.
Yeah, Two-Vine comes in, does just go for the Bark, gets the guaranteed effectiveness for this game, stripping away some of those defenses from this Nidrasil. And he does go for that double in on the Koish slot, which makes sense. Fortunately, Two-Vine is the best equipped to deal with that, since both attacks deal half damage. And now, this is probably going to be the... Actually,
Gaialis.
I mean, any of them honestly could be good here. You bring the Gazuma in to either just get some good damage out, or Turbo to make this Two-Vine now super fast. You bring the Gaialis to threaten the Kinu and deal good damage to the Gaialis on a swap in, or you bring the Digital Koish to just hit that Digital Stream button again on the Kinu slot.
I mean, if you're Lisu, don't you just Hypno the opposing Two-Vine?
Yeah, this turn, if you have Hypno, then that would be the play. Does not Hypno with the Kinu, swaps out. So maybe this Nidrasil has Hypno and gets him. Electric Storm comes in.
Does nothing. CPG
Gatling
goes first.
Before... Oh, because he goes for the Bark Shield. Okay. OX is for a Bark Shield.
I do think that means Kinu is probably coming in next turn onto the Nidrasil spot.
Yeah, so
And
he's
Hook
making a
Kick
boss of his Gaialis.
and
but
Hook
it's
Kick will
already at
finish
half
off the
health.
Two-Vine.
Yep.
So is there
Hook Kick
anything...
will also deal super effective damage to this Koish, or no?
So, no.
I think Digital only resists poison, right? Or toxic.
Yeah, so, I mean, Digital
So it'll
Koish
do 1x.
will be 1x damage.
Okay.
So Two-Vine stays, dies to the Hook Kick, which allows the Digi-Koish for a free turn to come in. Tesla Prison comes down into the Gaialis, making it speed lower, so this Gaialis is no longer a speed threat. Digi-Koish, I expect Digi-Koish come in here with the 2x damage against the Gaialis.
Yeah, because if you bring the Koish in here and you take care of the opposing Gaialis, then your Gaialis should be able to clean up the Kinu easily. This is getting real close, though.
Yes.
Because now,
If
Gaialis on Liso's side, if it uses Crystal Stabs, does that outspeed this Gazuma, and does it kill the Gazuma?
So I think this Kinu wants to try to revitalize, but it's all going to come down to, does this Digi-Koish one-shot the Gaialis? Now with
plus 3 defense, it's going to be close.
It will be close now. Gazuma leaves
Gazuma
for
swaps.
Gaialis. The Gaialis does need to come in on an off turn like this just so he can get his Crystal Bite up. Gaialis does leave for Lisu, not wanting to test whether it can survive.
Eats the digital stream like a champ. And then Hypnosis is this Koish. So that was a pretty good turn here for Lisu, because now he can bring his Gaialis in for the Kinu slot, and with +3 defense, it should survive any hit.
The problem
The only issue
there,
is,
the
what
Crystal
are you
Bite
doing
coming
to
down
fight
onto the
Gaialis?
Kinu spot.
Yeah, like, there's no reason to not just Crystal Bite the Kinu slot from Arctech,
So I think
because that should kill.
maybe a Kinu sacrifice onto the Nedgersil, followed by a Toxic Ink onto the Koish slot, may be Lisu's best bet. That way you don't take damage on the swap in from the Gaialis, because the Crystal Bite's still going to do decent.
Yeah,
and then you
feels like 30.
Now from Arctic's side, if he reads that he may swap out the Koish, bring in the Gazuma, allow the Gazuma to die, and then bring the Koish back in when it's no longer asleep. So we do see the Koish retreat, Gazuma onto that spot. Crystal Bite comes down. I think this one-shots most Kinus. This Kinu survives, though. Interesting.
Ooh. Survives to get that Beta Burst off. That was a bold call, but it paid off for him here. Which actually, that means if that Koish had stayed in, that would have killed.
Yeah.
Because this Koish is carrying the War Drum. But now this Koish is in, and Digital Stream should go before Sacrifice even, potentially. Depending on the speed of the Koish.
So I think Lisu goes ahead and presses the sacrifice button, hoping it goes first. But, I mean, even a Gaialis Sharp Stabs will outrun sacrifice. So.
Yep, Digital Stream goes first, kills Kinu.
Hook kick comes down, does nothing. Toxic Ink overexerts.
Oh, and doesn't finish off with the Toxic Ticks.
So
this Koish does not even die.
So Arctech will get a double in onto Lisu's heat up.
So his only hope here is that Sharp Stabs
outruns Crystal Bite.
Or
Hook kick.
Crystal Bite.
Yeah.
Which also, this Gaialis from Arctech's side could go for the Crystal Stabs in return and hope that this Digital Stream plus Sharp Stabs is enough to kill. Does not look like it would have been. Oh, does not go for the Sharp Stabs. Or just doesn't have it. Or it's just slow enough. Maybe this Gaialis from Arctech's side is just that much faster.
Either way, the double in does kill. Now I don't think the Hydra, it'll be interesting. Both teams on the Arctech side are out of stamina.
At least he doesn't have enough stamina to kill a Gaialis, since it only takes one toxic
Well,
tick.
I think you just go Allergic Spread here. Allergic Spread kills the Koish and gives 2 poison ticks onto the Gaialis.
Yep.
So instead we see the OX death from the Digistream.
Makes sense.
Allergic Spread comes out.
Pretty sure you're just dead there. So it makes sense to just go for that.
And Gaialis rest. Okay, can the poison ticks outrun? So here, Lisu just needs to rest. This Hydra isn't taking any damage at all. So now another Allergic Spread.
If it knows spores here, that would be ideal.
Most aren't running spores though.
It's true. See, this one's running Bark Shield, Allergic Spread, Toxic Ink, and
Narco Hit.
Yeah, Narco Hit. So yeah, it definitely does not have spores.
So let's keep an eye on how much damage the next attack from the Gaialis does, because that will be really critical. This Gaialis has about 4, Maybe 3 toxic ticks left in it.
Yeah, it dies to the next allergic spread.
Lisu may be able to kill it this turn with just an attack in. Narco hit for the
it
win.
just kills.
GG's.
And Lisu takes it.
That moves the series
Go up 2-1.
2-1 in favor of Lisu and Brutal Felix. Alrighty. Welcome to the finals of the Wiplump Lovers Tsunami Cup. We have Reculot and Arctic versus Lisu and Brutal Felix. Lisu and Brutal Felix lead the series 2-1. If they win this game, they'll win the finals. If they lose, we will be going to tiebreakers. So we are now getting ready to watch Reculot versus Lisu. There's Reculot, and we will wait a couple minutes, allow the players to get into their game.
And one day, hope that we get a better method for spectating matches and running tournaments.
This is true.
Apparently, Lisu is not ready.
He's talking to me. But he's almost ready. Directing.
Gotcha. Alright, Lisu says he is ready.
Yep.
And the game's up.
All right. And they are in.
There we go.
So we've already seen both of these teams today. Reculot brings his double Kets team. Very speedy, very aggressive. And Lisu has the little bit of everything, but an aggressive team. And Ukama had a nice game on the last match. Is also good against the Kets, so it's an instant ban for Reculot.
Yeah, which means Lisu is considering his options here. I think the Fire Koish is the better ban.
However, we do know
leaving his toxic damage open, so
we do know that Raikan can get scary with a prideful stack and just ruin a game. So Lisu's not taking any chances, just banning the Raikan.
Yeah, he's decided not to take the risk that the Raikan can take over the game and relying on his 3 toxics to deal their extra damage to this Koish.
So now Fire Koish Sconch is a scary opening. And so Lisu needs to try to determine a way to counter that. Or even Fire Koish Mooflank is a scary opening, of course. Maybe have Cage online.
Fire Koish Valash is also threatening because then if you bring a neutral or a mental tem here to threaten the other 2 neutrals, you bring your Valash in and then you can threaten both slots. And if you respond with your own Kets here, your Momo doesn't have a good turn 1, and your Kets is not good into their Koish, so you know exactly who you're getting attacked.
So we see Adoraboros leading here, hoping to get the Toxic Ink off before it dies. Or maybe a Beta Burst into one of these physicals, neutral Tims.
Yeah, this opening is very difficult from Lisu here.
So Lisu does go ahead with the Capwire, so the Capwire does force out the Valash, keeping it away from his mental Tim.
And so now Reculot is most likely going to bring the Scunch, but thinking about the move flank as his other option.
I think move flank makes more sense here, because if Adoraboros isn't one-shotted, Beta Burst will just kill the Scunch. So
I mean,
move flank does come off
I think
the board.
Has his spec so that P-Jab happens first, so P-Jab Kets should definitely kill the Adoraboros.
So now we're ready for second bands. Lisa's thinking about Valash. Valash can ruin a game, of course.
Yeah, banning the Vlash here is good because it prevents also the carry potential from Vlash, and then gets rid of another Ket synergy, and it helps protect your 2 mentals, but then this Kinu gets banned, so
Yeah,
it's just
Reculot bans the Kinu, saying, okay, I'm going to bring my Scunch, but also let's not get any of those buffs onto the other teams, like we saw in that last game.
Mm-hmm. So from Lisu's side here, I really like bringing Volrend and Gaialis, because you want to get those synergy toxic blooms, because Rocklott's entire team, besides Volphy, is physical damage. So
Yeah.
if you get a couple great attack downs, then that can really just help you win the game.
Yeah, so I think once this Adoraboros dies, we'll probably see like the Volorant come in, and then you can have the Gaialis swap in on the next turn for the Toxic Bloom.
And then from Rockalot's side, you probably want the Scunch just for that extra Kets. And then I do think you want the Volphy, because Nidrasil's not really doing a ton for you here. Because there's 2 Toxic Tems, a Crystal Tem that also reduces your Toxic ticks. Oh, and goes for the Nidrasil.
Yggdrasil over Momo, that is interesting.
So maybe we will see some more Bark Shield action.
It is possible.
Because of all the triggers, yeah.
I mean, yeah, if he gets a Bark Shield down on his Volrend and his Gaialis, which seems super unlikely to get it off on both of them, then those 2 could potentially take over a game.
But once this Fire Quaish is out, it is a pretty nice field for Yggdrasil.
Yeah.
Especially with Bark Shield.
Especially with Bark Shield.
Alright, so now turn 1 here.
So turn 1 is going to determine a lot. Does a double in from Reculot kill this Adoraboros? It may get close. I think the Synergy Kets is probably going to do 60-70%. But the neutral damage, right, is not going to do very much.
Yeah. He does have Hurry Wart, so he has Cage and Goring up this turn from his move flank.
I don't think Lisu swaps, so I don't think we'll see a Cajun coming. I think it's obvious that this Capfire probably, yeah. So the Capfire is either going to catch the move flank or just heat up. I think heat up is probably free here.
Yeah, I do like heat up turn 1, which is why I was surprised the Momo didn't come in, because then turn 2 you could swap the Momo in and then get your Kets off after a heat up.
That's true. That's true.
Except the Cage can block that.
Does just go for the Goring onto the Capfire.
And Kets onto the Campfire. Interesting.
Okay.
Yeah, if you wanted to double in there, I would almost prefer a Water Cannon.
Yeah. He was anticipating the Nidrasil coming in, or I guess the Volrend, most likely. He was anticipating Volrend coming in. Because there's no reason to bring the other 2 into an active Fire Quaish unless you think you've pressured the Quaish enough with a single Toxic Ink.
Yeah, I'm not sure why Lisu would swap there, though. Like,
yeah. I think he only might swap if he thinks he's applied enough pressure to make Rakulot swap and is trying to get the upper hand on him. But that, yeah, I don't know. I don't like the double in from Rakulot.
Yeah, that was really an interesting turn 1. I think Rakulot had the edge going in after picking bans, but losing the move flank
into a Capfire and threw it away basically.
Yeah. So I think
now if you bring Scunch in, it dies to this Adoraboros, and you are in the same issue where you might not kill it first because you haven't done any damage to it yet.
So now what does Reculot do? He brings Volphy in, but this Adoraboros now has a free Toxic Ink. And Reculot kind of wants to get a Water Cannon just to finish off this Capfire.
So
I think Liso could
From Lisu's side,
swap
I
in
almost
Volrend.
like Toxic Ink and Ket's the Fire Koish slot. Just because if Rakulot thinks that the Toxic Ink isn't coming on the Koish, he might be tempted to bring the Gaialis in here.
Interesting. Yeah, so I think either a double lane from Lisu or even just swapping out this Capire for the Volrend, because we won't see a second Kets on that slot.
At least we really shouldn't. Alright, does swap it out. Does bring the Volrend in. And no swaps on the other side. Plagues the Adoraboros.
That does lock that Ouroboros in.
And then does go for the water cannon. So the swap did work. Toxic Ink.
Free
Does
Toxicking
not
onto
do
this
much,
Koish.
but gets it down below 50 after that second toxic tick.
So the real question is this Volrend running Noxious Bomb? We won't see the Synergy and Toxic Plume this turn because that Ouroboros is trapped. So another tough turn for Raculot. Does he go ahead and catch this Volrend, catch the Ouroboros, try to do damage, knowing that this Koish is going to probably die? Or does he swap out for something like the Gaialis, which is better into both of these Tims, but takes damage on the swap?
Also, if this Adoraboros is faster with an Emanip than a non-synergy Kets, potentially this turn Lisu could Emanip the Koish and swap the Capire back in to eat the Kets.
Another option is this Adoraboros has been on the field for 2 turns now, so it does.
It could just Inner Spirit.
It does have if it's running Inner Spirit is up and should probably at least eat 50% of this Volphy. If it's a squishy Volphy, it could do much more.
Yeah, the only reason why I don't necessarily like that is besides the trap condition, you're not really super worried about this Volphy. Everything resists Plague, and the Gaialis is the only one that fears the Dust Vortex.
Right. But if you don't Inner Spirit this turn, you die to Crystal Bite next turn.
Plagues the Volrend into the slot.
Trapping it in?
If we double the Gaialis slot, HKS might do enough. Does not. Hits the Volphy. And then the Inner Spirit to try to kill this Volphy off.
Ooh, it's really close. Brings the Volphy down to 10%. Unfortunately, this Adoraboros is still trapped. So this Gaialis has free reign to just Crystal Bite whichever slot he wants.
And then the Volrend is also trapped, so Lisu is priced into an Emanip here to hope it goes first. Probably just Emanips the Volphy slot.
And then the Volrend can either Feathergat or get off an HKS. I like HKS this turn onto the Gaialis. That way you can use something like Toxic Plume next turn.
Yeah, the HKS this turn should leave you enough stamina for the Synergy Toxic Plume, and also gets your damage off on this Gaialis, so at the very least it's taken some.
Right.
Because you might not.
I don't think Volrend dies this turn.
It could die to a Crystal Bite Dust Vortex.
That's true. But I think it'll be interesting to see what Raculot does if he leaves this Adoraboros alone.
Yeah,
I think he wants to get rid of the Adoraboros just so Skunch can come into play.
Yeah, I think Volphy becomes Skunch and he Crystal Bites the Adoraboros here. Do we know what Tem is carrying the War Drum from Rakulot? I think it is the Skunch.
So Feathergat comes out, finishing off the Volphy. So no swaps.
And Crystal Bite.
Does that finish off the Adoraboros? It does. A Toxic Skin, though. We'll see a Poison Tick on this Gaialis.
Did some damage. So the nice thing here is, as well about that Volphy being dead, is that now Toxic Plume is good into whatever Tems it hits.
This is true. Lisu, though, it depends. Lisu may be worried about the Fire Quash coming in. So maybe Lisu just leads the Kiera. Let's see what happens. No, Hydra comes in. So we may not see Synergy Toxic Plume this turn.
I mean, with those two out, I really like swapping for the Gyalis here and get that Toxic Plume off. Unless you're going to go for that Bark Shield some turns in the future.
HKS is online, though. The question is, does Volarin live 2 attacks this turn so he can get HKS off next turn?
If it gets the Toxic Plume off, then I think it should. Because Gyalis' Hook Kick is less damage than its Crystal Bite.
I think another option would be like HKS onto the Skunch and Toxic Ink on the Skunch. That may be enough to kill the Skunch. I think it'd at least get it down pretty low. So I think...
Yeah, that would definitely be good damage on it.
Those are at least there's 2 options. Raculot probably wants to start killing this Volarin. So maybe a Hook Kick
if you ignore the Volarin
and a P-Jab onto the Volarin.
After this turn, it can run away.
Yeah, I don't think Hook Kick and P-Jab kill the Volarin. So I think you're right that the Gyalis swap into the Toxic Plume is the best move. And then you just HKS, Suicide HKS next turn.
Or you just bring the Nidrasil back.
Yeah.
I mean, actually, I like bringing the Capire back in so you can get some stamina back on this Volarin, because if you don't have to Suicide HKS, then this Volarin could easily take over the game. It does go for the HKS, but onto the Gyalis slot.
Down to 18%. With that +3 speed. It doesn't overexert this Volarin, though. And the Volarin will survive. So the Volarin can get off an attack next turn. Toxic Ink will finish off this Gyalis.
Alright. So the only reason why I don't like this is now you've forced it so his last 2 Tems are Fire Quaish and Skunch.
Right.
You've given him the option to have his synergy
Kets.
up.
Well, this Volarin does have 1 more attack in it, right? So.
Yes.
But now Lisu is in a bit of trouble. Do you leave the Hydra in and Toxic Ink the fish? Do you swap in Gyalis to a Synergy Kets just to get off the Toxic Plume? Is that still your best move?
So I think your 2 plays here are you swap the Nidrasil for the Gyalis to get the Synergy Toxic Plume, you sack the Volarin, and then your Gyalis dies almost assuredly to the double in. Or you can leave the Nidrasil in, swap the Capire into the Volarin slot, and hope that that slot gets Ketsed.
No, the Kets is coming down on the Hydra slot. If anything, the Skunch is hitting the Volarin.
Alright, well then if you think that's the case, then you can bring the Gyalis in on the Volarin and bring the Capire in on the Nidrasil.
This is going to be a tough turn for both players. I mean, we're 6 turns in, and it's almost the end of the game.
If one of them reads this correctly, then the game could easily be Alright, does go for the Gyalis, presumably for the Toxic Plume suicide.
Attacks,
I do like this.
The attack down...
does not kill the Quaish. It's really close.
But at least the attack down will make this Quaish and Skunch do less damage. Does it kill? Oof.
I think it should.
It still kills.
Yeah, not even close. If it wasn't a perfect jab, if it was just a perfect jab type damage, but without the defense down, then maybe it could have been close. But
no, Raculot may win here. I
yeah,
think
he can just hit the Kiara with Haito Uchi and Kets the Nidrasil.
I think if Lisu had targeted the Skunch, just HKS on the Skunch slot, I think that's the win.
The mistake, I think, was indeed killing the Gyalis.
Yeah. I mean, you have the Capire for the Gyalis if you need it. And we saw the Hydra take care of the Gyalis. So I think an attack from Skunch here finishes it off. Ooh, Flaming Meteorite goes first. Last rush. Does it kill? Oh my goodness, it kills. One hit KOs the Skunch. Wow. I had written Lisu off, but last rush Capire. Last rush Capire. Wow, GG's.
GG.